Go ahead and get started with today's session. Welcome everyone, I'm your trainer. My name is Amanda Kopp, and today we're covering both Gmail and Hangouts today in training. I know that many of you have spent some time already on Google in one form or another, whether it's a personal account or you had a demo or something like this. So just make sure that you are kind of steering me in the right direction of what types of things that you'd like to see. The way that you can interact with me to ask questions or let me know what you'd like to see is you can click on the questions section within GoToWebinar, and then the little box will be at the bottom that you can type the question into or whatever you'd like to see, suggestions, things like that. So you type those in as soon as they come to mind. You don't have to wait for me to pause between different things. You've joined the session here muted automatically, but you can type in those questions at any time, or you can click on the raised hand icon. The raised hand icon will indicate to me that you'd like to be unmuted to just speak to me about what it is that you have a question on. So if you have to give me more detail, or it's just easier for you to explain it that way, that's your other option. Okay, today's session is recorded as well, so if topics that we're going over here are a little bit too fast for you, you'll have that to review after the session, and your project team will send that out to you afterwards with the slide deck and the outline as well. So typically what we go over in Gmail are these basic items in here. Now I know that some of you guys have spent some time in the system, so what we're mainly going to focus on probably is conversation threading, some best practices with that, because that can be a little bit more of a complex topic. Even though you might have seen it, maybe you've been frustrated with it or you'd like it to work a little bit better for you. So we'll go over that one. And you'll also know what that is if you're unfamiliar. We'll go over that in a minute here so that you are familiar. We typically look at some of the settings that you have, but you probably have figured out where the signature section is and the vacation responder. So we'll go over some more advanced settings too, but if you do have questions on any of the basic things too, don't feel nervous that you can't ask those questions. Go ahead and ask me whatever you'd like. I'll give you some best practices with staying organized. So we'll take a deeper dive into searching's advanced features, which will also probably lead us to a discussion about filters, which are like rules in Outlook. So we'll set those up, and then we'll look at labels, different functionalities. One is as a traditional folder, and then the other is to actually label email messages. And once we're done with Gmail, we'll also come to Hangouts, and we'll talk about how Hangouts is used for the instant messaging kind of quick response system that you have to send chat messages. And there's also part of Hangouts, which is video calls, which enable you to see people face to face, or even join a call so you can just speak without your camera on. It also allows you to share your screen so that people can see, like you are now, what's going on my screen itself. Okay, so let's first just go over how to sign in. I just want to make sure that you know how to do that. And we do recommend that you use the Google Chrome web browser. And the reason for that is it's the only way that you can access the offline capabilities of the G Suite. So that's one of the reasons. The other is because it's a little bit more quick and reliable. So keep those concepts in mind. You can certainly use Safari or Mozilla Firefox or any of those other browsers as long as it's within the last 2 updates of that browser itself. But Google Chrome is recommended for those reasons there. And then the last reason too is if you have a personal account, you can actually use that simultaneously with your work account and not be kicked out of one or the other. Now, I'm sure that many of you have discovered the function like I am now. If I'm in one account, I can click to add an account here. And what that will enable me to do is then I'll see the other account in the list below here. So I can click on that and switch between them. Oftentimes when I do it this way, both of those accounts then load in the same window. And it will typically kick me out of one account over the other. So I know you probably know how to sign in just in general to your accounts. So what I'm going to show you here is a way to manipulate multiple accounts at the same time without having to be kicked out. So what you'll notice here in the top right corner of my screen is I have something that says training. Had you not set this up, it's not going to really say anything. Okay? So this is a way that I can switch to a different account that I have. So I'm going to show you how to get the screen here so that you can switch to different accounts. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is sign into your work account or your personal account, whatever's up already. Then you're going to click on this little tiny button here. It's 3 dots, and then click on Settings. Okay, from there you're going to scroll down until you see a section that says People. I'll zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better too. Okay, so you're probably not going to have any people listed here. It might say current user or one person, something like that. You're going to click Add Person, and then you get to choose a quick nickname for this account, like say for instance personal, and I'll put Amanda. I'm also going to put a note in here for myself to delete this after this training. Okay, but this is not you creating a new Gmail account or Google account. It's just you creating a quick name for it. You can choose an icon to associate with this or not really focus too much on that. And then click Add. When you do that, it's going to launch a new window, and it's going to take you to a screen like this where it asks you to sign in. So essentially what's happening is it's asking you to sign into the account that you've picked a nickname for. So this one that I said personal Amanda delete. I need to click to sign in and then tell Google which account I'd like to be associated with this nickname. So you just type in that personal email address, click next, type in your password. Once you've done that, you're probably going to do it one more time for your work account. Okay, so that nickname is going to say Amanda Work or whatever it might be. Okay, we'll click Add, and then you go through the same process. So the nice thing about that is once you do set that up, if you're in one account, like we're in this one here, we can click either in the top right corner wherever you see that name listed and click on the other account that you want to access. So for instance, I have another training account for Betty Boop. I'll click on it, and then it loads her information from her perspective. So kind of keep that information separate. The nice thing about it too is that any of the bookmarks that you have for whichever account you're logged into, it's going to keep those bookmarks with that account across all your different devices. So if I log into this account on a different computer or wherever else I am, my bookmarks for that account are going to be there. I'll click on the bookmarks and then it will show whatever bookmarks I have there. So for Betty, I don't have too many bookmarks here, but for this training account, I have quite a few more. And you can see that they're different. So you probably want to keep your personal bookmarks like Netflix and things like that associated with your personal account and not on your work account. Okay, so it's kind of another reason why I use the Chrome profiles as well. Okay, so again, you've got the top right corner that you can toggle on a different account. You can also right-click on the browser itself if it's at the bottom of your screen here, if you're on a Mac like me, or if you're on a Windows computer, it might be at the top of your screen, okay, where it says People, things like that. Just might be in a little bit of a different section. For Windows people, sometimes it's kind of near your clock as well at the bottom of your screen. Okay. And when you first set up those different accounts, it will also ask you if you'd like to create a desktop shortcut for that account. So many of you might like that too. All right, so enough of logging in. Let me know if you have any questions on that at all. You can type that in the question pane. Otherwise, we'll move on to Gmail. Okay, so with Gmail here, let's take a look at a few things. One thing they said we talk about is conversation threading. So before we get too much into this, I just want to preface this by saying that conversation threading is just a setting within Gmail. Okay, so I'm going to take you to your settings here and just show you where that is. By default, it should be on in your account when you first gain access to your account. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see it in here too. But if you're listening to me as we go through this and you say, this is not what I want, I would like my emails to come in individually and this is too confusing, you can click to just toggle it off and your emails will come in as they traditionally would on an regular email account. And you'll understand what that means a little bit more in a minute here. Okay, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm just showing you what the features are. It's up to you if you'd like to use it or not. All right, so conversation threading is a way that Google groups messages together. Now, the reason why it groups these messages together is to give them a cleaner look and feel. So when you email, say, 3, 4, 5 people, even more than that, you create a new email, you send it to those people. each one of those people, when they respond, traditionally it would come in your inbox as individual email messages. And it would also kind of have that garbled text from the original message and anybody else's replies and forwards and all kinds of things like that. It's a bit hard to see. The way that Google creates those kinds of responses coming in, I'll open this one up so you can see it, is each one of those responses is kind of separated in an individual block here. Now it automatically took me to the newest message that I've either read or the newest message I haven't read yet. Any of the older stuff is kind of collapsed for me, so I don't have to scroll through all that garbled text from that older portion of the message. Okay, so if my brain's not so great as it is now, and I'm trying to remember what this was about, I can always go back to any of those older messages and read them. I just click to expand the section, and easily I can remind myself what was discussed. Or if it's been quite a long time and I need a refresher from even the beginning, I can just keep clicking and open the sections, or there's one little expand all button kind of next to the printer here. Okay, we can click on that and see everything. So it's kind of the general concept of conversation threading, is it groups messages together. Now how it figures out which messages to group is it doesn't just take a new message that you sent to 5 people and take all the replies and group them together. Yes, it will do that, but the reason why it's doing that is it groups all email messages of the same subject line together. So that's kind of a watch point with how conversation threading works, which this part is kind of the more advanced portion here for you to understand. So we'll kind of take you through that a bit. So one of the changes that you might need to think about is when you do create subject lines, you might want to create them to be a little bit more specific than you normally would. So say for instance, like this one here, it says new project craft construction. It's a great subject line because if I were to create a subject line that's just new project, and I send that to however many people I want to, and I'll send it to just a couple of people right off the bat here. And I talk to them about this new project. We'll call it Project Blue. Okay, and I send this off. Tomorrow, or maybe even later on today, there's another new project that comes in. I start composing a new email, same subject line that says new project. That new project, even though it's different, is going to be tacked on to this conversation thread because it has the same subject line. So that's not what we want to happen. What we want instead, and the way that we can avoid that from happening, is we can create a more specific subject line. So when you have a subject line that's going to be repeated quite often, think, what is it about this particular message having to do with new project here that I can put in the subject line to differentiate it? So say for instance, like this one, or like most of my new projects, what I'll do here is I'll put the client name in brackets or just separate it with a space or maybe even a slash or something like that. Okay, and we could say client Greenfield. Okay, or we could say Jim Greenfield, whatever we need to do. Okay, so that's kind of how I'll do things with my subject line to make them more specific, is I'll put the client name in there. Okay, let me know if you have any questions on that. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to show you here too is what happens if I receive a message from somebody else that has a pretty generic subject line, like this one that says new project. Okay, how do I change the subject line so it kind of meets this criteria of being a more effective subject line? All right, I'm going to send this to myself so we can kind of get the gist of it. Oh, actually, let's make this a bad subject line and click send. Okay, so now that message is in my inbox. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to show you how to change the subject line. Again, stop me if I'm going too fast or if you have questions, and we'll kind of take a quick break after this here too. Okay, so you can get some questions in. Okay, there's one. Let me take a look. Okay, it looks like Richard, your computer might be frozen. So yeah, we should be past the title page. See if, Richard, maybe try leaving the session and then rejoining. and then maybe that'll fix it. And the session's recorded too, so if you miss anything, you'll be able to take a look at that afterwards. Sorry, you're experiencing that there. Okay, so here I have my email message with my bad subject line. The subject line's kind of at the top here. Okay, so if I wanted to take this information but start a new subject line here, a new email conversation thread with a better subject, okay, what do? So I'm going to hit to reply here because I will compose another message. Okay. But now that I started composing the message, you'll see that there's another button that becomes accessible to me. I'm zooming in here so you can see it better. In the left-hand side, it says type of response if we hover over it. If we click on it, it gives us some other options in here. So if by accident I hit reply all and I actually just want to reply to one person, or I want to forward this on, I can change that right here. I can also click where it says edit subject. Okay, now we're getting into what we needed. Okay, I can call this whatever I'd like to call it. So we're going to change this up and call it new project, Project Blue. And we're going to put that in parentheses. Now you'll notice here too, it grabs any of the old information, and I'll zoom out so you can see that a little bit better too. It does grab any of the old information, which all that I wrote in the original message was just Project Blue. That's it. Okay. So it's kind of nice here is when we send this new email message off, it takes all the old content from that bad subject line thread here. Okay, and it does still save it in there. Now, if you didn't need some of the information from the old section, you can certainly highlight it and delete it. And that's up to you too. But now we have a working subject line that's really good, and it'll benefit us a lot more. Okay, so it's not going to be grouped together with just all the new project subjects. Okay, so that's how you change the subject line. Next thing that we're going to explore together with conversation threading is, like we looked at with our first example here, is this email message was sent off by Molly to multiple people, and she CC'd other people. What happens if I want to, on this conversation thread, have a private message with someone on here? How do I avoid other people from being able to see it? So we're going to go over that next. Let me know if you have any questions so far. I'm just going to mute myself for a second here while I take a sip of water. Right, doesn't look like we have any questions so far. We'll keep going. Okay, so let's take a look at this conversation here. I'm going to expand on the messages so we can take a look at them. So here Molly has created a new message and told us that we have a new project. She's then assigned some tasks to certain people. So Anna's going to set up a planning meeting. Betty's going to create team assignments. Okay, Anna then replies that she's done that. Good to go. And then we get information from Betty about what our roles are. Okay. Now, if I'm looking at this here and I decide, ooh, okay, she's put me as the training lead, but Carl, I have to work with Carl, and I'm not so great at working with him. Maybe I want to let Betty know that this is kind of a conflict for me, and let's work that out. Okay, there's a couple of ways that we can do that. The safest way to do that is to compose a new message to Betty, okay, just to Betty. And we could say something like team assignments, and then what was this one? Craft construction. Okay, and I could say something in that email message like, I don't want to work with Carl. Okay, then I'm ensuring that the only person that is seeing this is Betty. Okay, and it's not going to be grouped to any other conversation threads here. It's specific enough that it's fine. And Betty will ask me why, and we'll talk about it. Okay, so when I send this off, it's just going directly to Betty. But what if you wanted to actually respond on this conversation thread, so I don't have to write craft construction in the subject line? She also kind of knows what I'm talking about here. She's got all the information right in front of her. So she knows what email came through that I was referencing. Okay, I'm going to click on the message where it's relevant for me to reply to. So I really don't need to reply down here where Natalie's talking about conversation threads and all of that. What we want to do instead is actually respond on the message where the team assignment was created. Okay, so right next to this, the side portion of the message, instead of just hitting reply here, we can hit the down arrow and you see all of the reply options. I would just get in the habit of selecting that down arrow instead of this one little reply button, because that will just reply to an individual person. In this case, that actually works out for us, but in most cases, you're probably going to want to hit reply to all. Okay, I'm going to do that now just so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so it does populate everybody in my to and CC sections. That was on the email that I'm replying to. So if I want this to go to maybe Betty and Anna, so Anna knows too, okay, I'll just delete those other people by clicking the X on their name. Okay, so maybe I want to say something here like, heads up, Carl and I don't work that well together. Okay. So now I'm just sending this to Betty and Anna. But what you need to know about conversation threading is whatever you clicked on to reply to, it takes that message and anything above that message and includes it in the reply. Okay, so it's kind of going to include that message and have this message here appear in people's conversation threads for them so they can see it all. Now, the only people that can see it are the people that I sent this off to, but it does get a little bit more complex once I have this kind of saved in my conversation thread. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute here. Okay. One other thing that you can do too is that, well, all of this information is relevant here, so we're going to keep it all in here. I'm going to show you how to delete some content in case that's not the case though. Okay, so here I just let Betty and Anna know I don't want to work with Carl. We click send. Notice where that message goes in my conversation thread. Is it goes at the bottom because now it's the latest message or the newest message that's been sent off. Okay, so what you need to remember about conversation threads is that the newest message does appear at the bottom. Okay, and even though this message is private and it's just going to Betty and Anna, it will then appear on Betty and Anna's conversation threads in their own accounts at the bottom. So now I have two other people to be worried about. This message could get back to Carl. Because say, for instance, like this message here, okay, it's talking about conversation threads, and maybe somebody replies about that information. Okay, wherever they're clicking to reply, so if they clicked beneath this message and clicked reply to all, it includes this message too. Okay, so if I then decide I'm going to send a message off to, we will include Natalie again, and anybody else. Carl was on this too, because he's still on the project team. They haven't kicked him off yet. And I start typing away. I need to remember that this message is included too. So how do I actually reply to all these people and get this message going without including that private one? There's a couple of ways that you can do that. One is to click this little trimmed content button here, and we can just delete that section from to Carl, or about Carl, excuse me. Okay, we can kind of clean that up a bit. I'm just going to write test here, and I'm going to send this off to myself too, just so you guys can see this. Okay. And then we'll click send. Okay. I'm actually going to edit the subject line too, so this comes in differently, just so you can see this in my account. Okay, because I already have this on my conversation thread saved. Okay, so I started a new thread. It includes all the old information. Okay, it just doesn't include that private information to Carl. That's what that looks like there. Let's go back to that thread so you can see this too. Okay, now one other thing that we can do to kind of save ourselves from having to delete that each time we create a new message or new message is received in our thread and we're worried about it, is we can actually click on the down arrow here and click delete this message. But remember, we sent this to Betty and Anna too. So Betty and Anna have to be diligent about deleting that message from their thread too. So the safest way for you to work with truly private messages is to either reply to everybody and just select the people that you want and edit the subject line so you start a new thread, or just compose a new message from scratch and include the information that you need. You can always copy and paste because this view here where you're composing an email message allows you to scroll in the background and kind of grab what you need here. Okay, and then change it up a bit if you'd like. All right, so that's kind of the advanced topics on conversation threading. So if you're a little bit nervous about that, I would definitely suggest that you try it out and give it a chance, because it can save you quite a bit of time going through your emails, because it groups those messages in one subject line like this, or excuse me, one line of text in your inbox. It also makes it really easy to move it into a folder. Okay, so you can grab all that content and drag it into anywhere in the left-hand side, instead of having to select all 4 of the messages that are separate and drag those over. Just a couple of quick seconds we're saving you, but that can really add up over time. Okay, and then the last case for using conversation threading too is that cleaner view here, that you've got that block of text that you're looking at instead of that kind of jarbled text. Okay. All right, so I know that there are some questions coming in, so let me take a look at those. And then the next topic that we'll look at is our advanced search, and then we're going to talk about setting up rules automatically. Okay, it looks like, Richard, you're having some difficulty with the screen freezing all the time. I'm sorry about that. It might be due to an internet connection. Is anybody else having their screen freeze periodically? Hopefully you guys, it's just an internet thing. Okay. Okay. One question that came in is, how did you do that undo send message? Can you review that? Sure, absolutely. So we'll do that first. So in your settings within Gmail, there's a setting for you to enable something called undo send. So you have the ability to bring a message back that you just sent off. Okay, and that works. There's a couple of things for you to know about that and how that works. Okay. So in order to access those settings, we're going to click the gear icon and then click settings. And it's going to be on this main page here, the general page. We're just going to scroll down a little bit, and there's undo send. Click to enable it. Okay, so by default it's unchecked. You're going to click on it. And then I would suggest that you select the highest period of time that you can bring the message back for. So I select 30 seconds. I know you're probably wondering, and then click Save Changes once you've done that. I know you're probably wondering, well, if I've selected that, is it going to delay all of my emails from being sent off for up to 30 seconds? And the answer to that is no, if you don't want it to, and I'll show you how that works. So say, for instance, here, I compose a message to Betty. Okay, and I write something in here like, see attachment. And I click send. And I never attached anything. Well, now I can actually, in this yellow banner here, click undo to bring that message back. And I'll click to add my attachment, and I'll find that image that we have, or whatever it is that I wanted to attach, maybe a document. And now that I've done that, I'll click send. Now I want that message to go off right away, because I'm going to ask Betty about this or tell her to go check her email really quickly. So I don't want this to take 30 seconds to be sent off. What I can do here is, the undo banner that you have here is only on your screen for 30 seconds, but only if you really don't do anything else. So if I click an email message, that message is now sent off. If I refresh my screen, that message is sent off. If I click anywhere really on my screen at all, that message will be sent. Or if I just wait the 30 seconds, the message is sent too. Okay, so I'm going to do another one because I was talking quite a bit there. Maybe you couldn't see that too easily. Okay, so I've got up to 30 seconds for that to be sent. If I click on, we'll say, a folder here, that banner goes away. I don't have a chance to bring that message back again, right? Because that message has truly been sent off. Okay, so it's not like it's taking a message out of somebody's inbox. It is kind of delaying the message from truly being sent off for up to 30 seconds. So that's kind of how it works there. My recommendation to you is, since it does go away if you click anywhere else, is to always just get in the habit of clicking undo right as you sent the message off, just to give it another quick glance. Because if you're like me, you're just super excited that that email is done and off of your plate, and you're jumping to just click the send button. And you probably should have CC'd somebody else, done a spell check, double check to make sure you attached a file, whatever it is. So if you just click undo for a second there, it gives you that little safety net to make sure that you've truly composed your email message well. Okay, good question there. All right, looks like that's the end of the questions so far. Okay. On the topic of settings, let me just show you where those two sections were that we said are pretty basic things. I just want to show you where they are. We won't spend too much time on them. But there's a section in here to change how your text looks in your email that you're composing. You just have a few options in here of styles and then size. And the reason for that is those are the things that Google can guarantee look the same on all devices and all screen types. But if you have a text from somewhere else that you really like, you can paste that in this box and see if it takes it. Okay, and that's kind of your way around just the few options that Google lets you have. Okay. And then if we scroll down a bit more, there's a section in here for your signature, and this is how you can kind of set this up. If you're looking to add an image, you can paste it in the box and see if that takes. Otherwise, there's this little image over here that kind of looks like a picture of mountains. You can click on that and it's going to search your computer for that image if you click on the upload tab, and you can select a file from your computer. And then you have a link button in here too if you want to put a link to a website and things. Okay, and then the last setting that we'll look at here together is the vacation responder. So this one is that automated message that goes out if you are going to be out of the office. So you can type that in this box. So your box can be blank here. And you also can select the day that you'd like to schedule this for to turn on automatically. Okay, so we can select today's date, and we can choose when the day is that we want this to turn off, or we can leave this unchecked and it will stay on as long as we'd like it to. We'll click to save our changes, and then you'll notice that you set this up properly and turning on today if you notice a yellow banner at the top of your screen. You can click End Now to turn it off. Okay. So those are those two settings there. Now, one last thing I did want to show you that is a setting is in a strange section. It's called Preview Pane, and if you liked how Outlook looked, where it had a list of email messages on the left-hand side and then the actual message that you clicked on the right-hand side, this is what that is. So I just wanted to show that because a lot of people do like it. Okay, so back in our settings, we're going to click on Labs. Okay, so this is a section that Google is experimenting with adding some different features that people request and really like. Okay, but they're not truly fully released yet, so that's why it's in the Labs section. They all do work. Okay, so you can type in or you can scroll through the list to look for what we're trying to find here. So here we're going to type in Preview Pane, and there it is. And in the picture, it kind of shows you what it's going to look like. We'll click Enable, and then Save Changes. When we do so, our inbox is going to refresh. It's going to look like nothing happened. For some of you, something did happen, but for all of us, a new button has shown up. So we're going to click on that, and that's going to actually toggle on the preview pane. Okay. Now, if it doesn't look like this, it might be because you have a different option selected in here instead of a vertical split. Maybe you selected horizontal split, or that's just what happened by default. Okay, so you're just going to want to choose in this drop-down vertical split. Okay. So now you can see all the messages that I have on the left-hand side, and what I've clicked on is on the right. And I can easily make this wider or more narrow. Okay, so I can see more or less of the message. Okay, so that's Preview Pane. I'm going to just click this big button to toggle it off to just give us a better view during training. Okay, but that is Preview Pane for you there. All right. Now, one thing I wanted to go over before we do get into advanced search is just how your labels work on the left-hand side. And as we're looking at that, you might have noticed that my Hangouts chat is kind of jumping around. It's probably driving you crazy. Okay, so there is a way to make this smaller. So we can just kind of drag this down and it's going to be smaller. But again, it's still going to kind of jump up and be annoying. So there is a way to move this to the right-hand side of our screen. So again, in our settings, one last thing I'll show you here. In the lab section, We're going to type in right side chat, or just write, and it should come up. We're going to click enable and then save changes. So what's going to happen there is your chat is now pinned to the right hand side of your screen, so you can see that. And your labels are now stationary on the left hand side. If you do have a lot of labels, you can scroll up and down to see all of them. Now I do use the term labels instead of folders because that's what Google calls them. And the reason for that is they serve as a traditional folder will. So you can take an email message, click on the folder icon, and move it into there. Or you can drag a message and then drop it into the folder. But its other functionality is to truly label your email message. So you can actually take that name of a thing that you've created over here and drop it on a relevant message. Okay? Or if you like the other method where you check the box, you can click the label icon. It kind of looks like a tag for a present. Click on it and then select however many labels you'd like to apply. So you can actually select as many as you'd like. And we're going to choose 2. Click apply. It's almost like you put a sticker on that email message so it stands out a little bit more. What it also does is allow the email message to exist in multiple locations. So currently this one here is existing in my inbox, which I'm currently in. It's also in my awaiting follow-up label and my care housing label. So if I click on any one of those right now, it's going to show me its other locations, my inbox and care housing. Click on care housing, inbox, awaiting follow-up. There it is. Okay? So it's not a copy of the message, it just allows it to exist in multiple locations. So I know a lot of you are probably familiar with this a little bit, but it give you a little bit of some of my tips and tricks or best practices for being able to use labels effectively. So you might be thinking, well, this is just too much going on in my inbox. This is stupid. I don't even want to use it. Well, some of the other advantages that you have here is you don't have to have these messages sit in your inbox. So I've got this message labeled with what I need. There's no reason I need this in my inbox anymore. What I'll do is hit archive, and then it just essentially takes it out of my inbox and keeps it in those other 2 locations. Okay? The nice thing about that is I have labels set up for my client names. So I have everything that's to or from my clients in that section. I also have labels for things that are kind of like pending something happening, like it's awaiting a follow-up either from me or a response from them. Okay. Then I have another section here called to do or take action, because a lot of times I'll open up an email message and it tells me to do something, but I don't have time to do that right now. I'll just put that little sticker on there that says to do, and I'll do it when I want to do it or when I do have time. Now, the nice thing about this is if I filed things well and I've applied those labels as I've instructed you guys to do, if I click on my to-do section, it's nice because I can see what items I need to do for which clients, okay? Or I'll go to the clients folder, like care housing here, and I'll be able to see what I need to do for care housing, okay? Just this one thing. I'll open it up, and then we'll take a look at what it is I need to create for them. Okay. So essentially, I've turned my inbox into a to-do list or into a status checker even. You can create anything that you want to know or kind of have markers on for yourself. You can create a label that says that. Okay, so in order to create a new label, you need to scroll all the way to the bottom of all your labels. And then there's a little more button. Scroll all the way to the bottom again and click create new label. From there, create a label name of whatever you'd like. So you could call something very important and maybe put all caps in there. Maybe even want it to show up at the top of your list of labels, so we'll put a number next to it. Okay, because our labels are actually organized in alphabetical order. Okay, the ones above here, above where the number 1 very important label is, are created by Google. So all the Google ones that you can't delete, you can just hide from your view if you'd like to. They're listed here, and then it goes in alphabetical order after that with the ones that you've created. Okay, so here's my new label that I've created. By default, when you have a label, it's not associated with a color, it's just gray. If I drag this, it's gray. So in order to pick a color, we just click on this down arrow next to the label name. So I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see that a little bit better here too. This is going to look a little wacky for a second. Okay, so you just put your cursor on the label, click that down arrow. It could be either at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. Just look for a section that says label color. Then select from the list of presets here, or click add custom color, and you get to choose both a background and a text color. Okay, so that's kind of how that works there. And we'll click apply. And when I zoom out here, you can see that my what was gray label for one very important is now purple and yellow. Very springy. All right, so let me know if you have any questions on labels and how they work as folders or as true labels. And the next thing that we'll look at is our advanced search and how to set up rules, or what we call in Google filters. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions so far, so hopefully everything is straightforward and still useful for you. If there is something that you do want to see, we have about 15 minutes left in our session, so make sure that you're typing that in the question section so we don't leave here without seeing it. Okay, so if we are trying to find our emails in Google, it's a little bit different than Outlook if you're used to that. In Outlook, you used to sort for things. In Google, we're going to use our search box at the top of our screen. So say, for instance, I'm looking for an email that had to do with a training. I'm just going to type in the words training. And what Google does is actually look for all this different search criteria, like the word training within the body of the email, within the subject line, and even within people's email addresses. So that's not really helpful here. I found 62 emails. So what do? Well, what you can do is you can click on the drop-down arrow, that was kind of fast here. There's a drop-down arrow within the bottom right of the search box, kind of next to the magnifying glass here. We'll click on it, and then we're actually going to type in here what it is that we're looking for, maybe some more information or some more criteria about this one particular message that has to do with training. So maybe I remember it's from Betty Boop. Okay, we'll click to add her in the from section, and then we'll click on the magnifying glass. So as you can see, I've got a lot less search results here. I've actually got 10 as opposed to, what was it, 60 before? Okay, so it's found this a little bit easier for me. Now, some of the other search criteria that you have too, I'll zoom in a little bit better so you can see this here too. Okay, maybe a little less there. Is we can look for things that have an attachment. Okay, so we can check that box there and click the magnifying glass. It's going to find all emails from Betty that have an attachment. Okay, so not too many there. We also can search within date ranges too, if you'd like to do that. So say, for instance, within 2 months of today, see if Betty's emailed me recently. We'll click the search box, and as you can see, I just have a few results there. All right, so that's kind of how your advanced search works. Looks like we have a question that came in, so let me take a look at that, and then we'll look into filters as well. Okay, yes, I certainly can. So just a request here to review composing a new email, the formatting, and then adding things from Google Drive. Absolutely. Okay, so when you are looking to compose a new message, you're just going to hit this red compose button. This is the view that you're going to see when you're composing the email, but if you're somebody who likes to see kind of a bigger screen of this, what you can do is hit these diagonal arrows, and then it shows you this view here. Now the disadvantage of this view is that if you click anywhere outside of the email, like here, that email is minimized for you automatically. Okay, so if we were trying to reference an old email message, like open it up, we just need to remember that our email we're currently composing is now pinned at the bottom of our screen. And we can bring that up very easily too. So that's why I like this view here that I have set, because it allows me in the background to look at other email messages, and I'm super zoomed in right now, but this is what it's going to look like, so it's not very distracting. And you can actually see quite a bit of content here. You can even click on this attachment, take a look at it, exit out of it, and I've still got my email up on my screen. So I know exactly where it is, and I can grab content from other places if I'd like and paste it in and adjust the message that way. The other advantage with this email view here, when I'm composing this, is I can actually compose 2 messages at the same time if I hit compose again. So this is really useful if I'm trying to compose a message to my boss, for instance, and I just say a general overview about the project. Okay, we'll just pretend that I typed a lot there. And then I have to send a pretty similar message to my project team here, but they need some more information. So I'll send this to Natalie and Betty. Okay, we're going to take the same information that we sent to my boss, copy it over, and paste it in the email. And then we're going to continue to type some more info to them. So it's kind of nice that you can see side by side similar emails that you're creating, and then just take content from one or the other and truly see what, save yourself some time and see that formatting. Okay. Now, when I added new people, what I wanted you to notice too is we'll kind of exit out of that and we'll start from scratch together. As I'm going to add someone to my email message, I'll zoom in so you can see this. You might notice that if you're not clicked in the To section, it kind of hides that for you and it just says recipients. Okay. So in order to add someone, you just click up there. It didn't go away. Okay. It is still available for you. Start typing their name or email address. If they are in your contacts, they'll pop up for you automatically. Even if you've just sent one email off to them and haven't taken the time to put them in your contacts, they're actually in the background in a section in your contacts that's called Other Contacts. So anytime you've sent an email off to someone, it kind of saves them temporarily for you. So they will auto-populate for you in here too, which is kind of nice. Now, if you ever want to CC or BCC someone, Google doesn't put those beneath the To section automatically, just to give you a little bit more room to compose your email and take a look at your screen in a wider view. But if you do need to CC or BCC someone, just click on those sections, and then they're beneath the To section. If I do want to actually add someone to those sections, I'll just start typing their name or email address and they'll come up for me. Okay? Or if you have a contact group, like there's an email address that you have in your organization already set up for you guys, you can click on that and it will email that whole group too. Okay, so that's how that works there. You know, if you have any questions on the general format of that in your emails, and then we'll talk about adding attachments. Okay, from Drive and from your computer. Okay, so adding attachments, you have a couple of options in here. It might be better if I make this full screen to show this. Okay, so we have a paperclip icon here, which is going to allow you to attach files from your physical computer. We'll click on that, and then we can select whatever file it was that we wanted to attach and click open. It's going to attach that file at the bottom of the email, so it'll be clickable. Now, when you guys have training on Google Drive or become a little bit more accustomed to it, you'll also have files there. So you can click on the Google Drive icon, and then it's going to give you a search box so you can find the actual name of the file, or you can click on any of your folders that you see here. Okay. You can also click on the Shared With Me section if someone has shared something with you in Drive and you're trying to email it out. You've got all these different sections to look at. And if you've recently opened the file, it's nice you have a recent section, so you can bring that up, like our slide deck here that we're using. We'll click Insert, and then that will be an additional attachment that we've put on our emails. Now, one last thing to show you is there is a way to drag and drop attachments in your email too. So say for instance I have something on my desktop. I'm just going to move my browser a bit to the side here, and I'm going to take that and paste it, or excuse me, drag it into the email. So this PDF file here, Well, actually, we did that one already. Let's do the Word file. We'll just draw that in. Okay, and then it again appears at the bottom of the email message. When you use the drag and drop method, if you have an image file, like this one here, my Dido logo, if I drag that into the email, it actually pastes the image in for me, which can be pretty neat. It'll save you a bit of time from having to open up the file, copy it, and then open up your email and paste it in. And maybe you did actually want the image inside of the email, okay, not as an attachment. You also then can click on the image and adjust the size if you'd like. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it for the email. Your general formatting options here are this little A at the bottom. So if you're not seeing your bullets or things like that or changing your color, just click on the little A and then that should appear for you, that whole toolbar there. Okay. Our last topic is going to be filters, which is like Outlook rules here. So that is something that you can do by starting your advanced search up, because the first thing that you need to do is tell Google what kinds of messages this is going to apply to. So say for instance we want to create a rule for all messages from a particular person to go into one of our labels on the left hand side here. So say for instance we pretend that Betty is from Aetna, okay? And all messages from Betty Boop, we want to go automatically into that folder, or we want it to have the Aetna label when it comes into our inbox, so we know that that's what it's from. So I need to tell Google first what kinds of messages I want this to apply to. So in the From section, I'm putting Betty Boop's email address. Now instead of hitting the magnifying glass to perform the search, what I'll do instead is click Create Filter with this search. In doing so, now I'm on the screen where I get to set the commands for the computer. Okay, so here we're going to select the option to apply the label. So which label should go in this email message? Okay, we're going to select Aetna, and we can also choose the option here if we don't want this to go to our inbox, we want it to go directly in that folder. Okay, we can check the box for it to skip the inbox, and we also have apply the label on here. But for the most part, you're probably just going to want this to still come in your inbox so you see a new message in there and you do read it, and you don't run the risk of forgetting to check that folder. Okay. So I've applied what I'd like here. Google's also found that there are currently 44 matching email conversations that meet this criteria, meaning emails. Betty has sent me 44 email conversations. Do I want this label to be applied to those as well? If I do, I'll check the box here. If I just want this to apply to all things going forward, I'll uncheck it and just click Create this filter. Okay. That's how you set up filters in Google, so like Outlook rules. All right, let me know if you have any questions on that. Otherwise, we're going to spend the last couple minutes with Hangouts. Okay, let's see any questions, so we'll move on. All right, so Hangouts chat, I think you guys are going to get pretty quickly. The main thing to notice about this is you have 3 tabs here at the bottom of my screen that you're seeing. I'll zoom in so you can see it a bit more. Oh, a little bit less. The first tab here is just going to list people you've recently contacted. I know it says no Hangouts contacts. It doesn't mean your contacts that you don't have any. It just is the recent people that you've spoken with. Okay, the next tab here is going to save any of the conversations that you've had, and you can scroll up and down and click on one to bring up an old conversation and continue that. So this way you don't have to type in each person's name individually and start this group chat again every time you want to talk to them. And there's a way to name them, which we'll look at in a second too. And then the very last tab is actually to make phone calls directly from your computer here. So you can click on that and then you just type in the phone number. All right, but for the most part, you're probably just going to send instant message types of chat messages. So in order to send a new one, you'll click on the plus icon here and then type in whoever it is that you want to chat. So say, for instance, Betty Boop here. Okay, so I'll click on Betty. Here she is. And then I can see that we've actually recently chatted about something. Looks like a document and things like that. So it's bringing up that old content. So there's a couple of things that I might want to consider here. Maybe I just want to send Betty a quick message like, hi, okay? And I just want to continue to talk to her. Or maybe I want to actually start a video call with Betty. We can click this icon right here to start a video call, because maybe it's just easier for us to meet in person or face-to-face and discuss what's going on. Okay, so that's this call here. That is going to create that call instantly, so it's almost like you're dialing a phone number, and it's going to start right then and there. It's really calling her. Okay, so maybe you want to give Betty a heads up before you do that and just see if she's available to meet. That's a good thing to start doing, is just make sure she's camera ready or she's not in the middle of something important. Have a quick video call. Okay, send that message, and then when Betty receives that message, you'll be able to see that because on her screen, or our screen rather, you're going to see her icon appear when she's read it, and then as she's typing, you see those green dots, and then if she says something like she's going to work on something right now, she can't have the video call right away, we can say no problem, and we can schedule it for later. Okay, the way that you schedule it for later we'll go into in Google Calendar training, and we'll focus on that in our next session. But when you are starting a video chat with, or excuse me, you're starting an individual chat with Betty and you click the video call button, it's just important to know that that's starting right then and there. Okay. Now the last thing we'll go over here with Hangouts chat is how to start a group conversation. Again, it's going to be the plus sign, and then you're going to click new group. So typing the person's name that you want, keep typing everybody else that you want here too, and you can give it a quick group name if you'd like. Okay, so this way when we click the check mark, we have a group name in here. And if we go to close this out, we can bring it up very easily again by going into this middle tab and finding our CDC training group. Click on it and we bring up all the content that we've discussed so far. We can easily see who's in the group by clicking the person icon, and this is also the screen that we can add new people to. Okay. All right, so we're at our time here. I'm willing to stay on a couple extra minutes if you'd like to. I'm going to let you guys steer me to whatever else you'd like to see. If you would like to see Hangouts video calls and just have me walk you through that, I can. I did include the screenshots for what that looks like on here as well. So in case you just want to go at your own pace and take a look at that, you'll be able to do so by looking at the slide deck. Okay, so I don't want to bore you, but if you do want me to show that to you guys, I can. All right. Yeah, sure, I will show that to you. And one last thing with the chat that I want to show you is inevitably you're going to have a chat, an individual chat or a group chat that gets a little bit out of control. And you're going to want to focus on your work and not deal with that chat anymore. So I want to show you how to mute the notifications for an incoming chat. Is what will happen if you're receiving an incoming chat and you don't have that up on your screen. For instance here, if I'm looking at my slide deck and Betty is typing something, sends me a chat message, what's going to happen is it's going to flash on that Gmail tab that we have here. It's also going to play a noise for me. When I click back on Gmail, that box is now expanded. So if I decide, you know what, I really need to focus on my work, I don't want to deal with any incoming chats for a while, I can click on my name and then I can click mute notifications for and select however long I want to have those notifications not distract me. So I'm still going to receive the chat messages, Okay, so if Betty does send me another chat message, which she'll do in a second here, I'm still going to see that it's received. It's just not going to flash on my screen. It's not going to play a noise, but I'll know that there's a new message because it's the section where Betty is, or whatever group it's coming from. It's going to be bolded, showing me that there's a new message. When I do click on it, I'm able to see that message. Okay. No one can see that you have your notifications muted, so you don't have to worry about insulting anybody. But that is how you set those up, is click on your name, and then you get to mute yourself for however long you'd like. The reason why there's only a couple options in here is if you choose to just click mute. If that were an option, you'd forget to ever turn it back on again. Okay? And then you've missed a whole bunch of really important things. So that's why I suggest that you only use the 1 hour option. Unless you're traveling or sick or something, you might want to choose those other two options. You can also mute an individual or a group chat by clicking on the gear icon inside of the chat exchange. Okay, then uncheck the box for notifications and click OK. Okay, so then you'll still receive those messages again, but you won't receive the noise, the flashing, or any of that. It's just going to show you that it's bolded when a new message comes in. You can easily turn that back on by checking the box again. All right, last portion here is Hangouts video calls. So video call is going to look like this. You're going to see who's ever speaking currently is in the center of the screen. Unless at the bottom you actually click on someone, and then it will kind of pin the camera on that person, which is really good if someone is presenting their screen, like slides or something like that. Okay, so this is what it looks like here. You're always going to be in the bottom right-hand corner. In order to share your screen, you click on this little icon on the left-hand side. Looks like a green computer screen with an arrow. Click on it, and then you get to select which screen you'd like to share. And it might show you an option to share your entire screen. And that's going to show everything like I'm showing here with all my different tabs, and you can see my desktop and all of that. Okay, or you can choose to just share a particular screen, like just the slides that you're showing. Okay. The toolbar that you're seeing here is actually going to be at the top center of the video call. And this is how you can join a video call and toggle your camera on and off, or you can mute yourself if you're not speaking. Cuts down on background noise, or like if you need to cough and you get to that button fast enough, you can click on that so people don't have to hear you cough or sneeze. All right. In order to add more people to the video call that's currently in session, you can click on this person icon, and then it's going to bring up this screen here. So you can actually type in their name or email address, or you can copy this link and paste that into a chat or email with them. And then they'll be able to join at their leisure. This button here, if you're having some choppiness that you're experiencing in the video call, or the screen is freezing, which I know some of you are experiencing right now, unfortunately. If you're in a video call and Google that, there's a nice feature in here to be able to turn down what's known as your bandwidth. Oftentimes when you're experiencing choppiness or screen freezing, it's because your internet's not really that strong, or there's just a lot of people on it right now and it can't deal with that. So what you could do is kind of turn down the high quality or high definition video quality that you're putting out or receiving. So you can toggle this down a couple notches, and then it will adjust that for you. On the lowest setting, it's actually going to turn your camera off and everybody else's camera from your perspective. If they still have their cameras on, they're able to still see each other, but they're not able to see you, and it just kind of helps your computer function better. Okay. And then the gear icon at the top here brings you to the setting page, so if in case people are not hearing you or you're not able to hear them, you can adjust your microphone or your speakers. All right. Last couple slides in here I put just as reference for you. I'm not going to read them to you, but I'll just tell you, some of the main ones that I have here to point out is that this one here, you can actually do a quick test run before an important video call. And the way that I would suggest that you do that is you can either create a fake event on your Google Calendar, or you can go to an old one that had a video call associated with it. So if we go back to last week, I can click on this meeting here. Here's my video call button for that session, I can click on it. It's going to launch the screen for the video call to start. Okay, and this way I can take a look at how I'm presenting myself and see if my lighting's okay, and you can see different things. Okay, so when you click join, you'd be able to take a look at that. So when you do join the actual meeting that you have going on at that time, and on the right day, you'll be able to ensure that you know what you're presenting and take a look at your background too and things like that. So that's kind of my pro tip for you. And again, we'll go into that a little bit more in Google Calendar training when you guys have that. But I just want to give you that as a sneak preview there. Okay, the last option that I just wanted to go over too is that we do recommend that you use a headset if you are in a video call, just to reduce some background noise if you're in an echoey room. And you may or may not know that your Apple or iPhone earbuds that you have here, the ones that come with your phone, actually have a built-in microphone within them. So you can use those. It's actually currently what I'm using. Or you can use a traditional headset like this. But you don't need to. It just kind of going to give you a better audio experience for your guests. It's just something that we recommend. But your video calls will certainly work if you don't have a headset at all. You could just use the regular speaker that's built into your computer. All right. So that's pretty much it as your crash course to Hangouts and Gmail. And what I did also for you as a reference is give you a quick link to the G Suite Learning Center. So if you do have some basic questions on Gmail, Hangouts, or any of the Google apps that we haven't discussed yet, you can click on the Learn by Product section and then choose whichever application you'd like to learn about or review. And it's got some resources here. It has some switching from sections in here too if you're used to Outlook or Notes, and it will show you the main differences between those. Or you can click Get Started and choose any of the topics here at the top, and it will walk you through step by step how to actually perform those actions with little screenshots and things. Okay, so if you forget where your advanced search was, that's an option in here. It's something that's going to help you find your email, and you can look at that. All right, but that brings us to the end of our session here. I'll stick around for another couple minutes and answer any other questions that you guys have. Otherwise, you're free to go, and I will send this recording, slide deck, and outline over to Corby after the session. Just give it a little bit of time to download here, and you guys should have that by the end of the day. All right. Thanks so much for your time and attention, and I hope this was useful for you. And looking forward to seeing you in the next couple sessions that we have. All right, thanks. Yeah, any other questions you have, go ahead and type them in the question pane and I'll answer those. Otherwise, we'll close out here if there's nothing else. You're very welcome.